The time is now 6:01. Our regular city council meeting for April 16th, 2024 is now in session. First on the agenda is Councilmember Westbrook, who would lead us with the opening prayer and the pledges of allegiance to the flags of the United States and the state of Texas. Please rise.
Can you hear me? Yep. Father God, please watch over this city, the council, and the attendees here, and grant us wisdom and discernment for better decisions. In your name we pray, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag, to the United States of America, and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Councilmember Westbrook. I do have a special announcement for the Hal Baldwin Scholarship. As a reminder, students who are participating in the Hal Baldwin Scholarship are required to sign up on the sheet located in the back. For those of you that are viewing it online, if you can please contact, email Sarah Gonzalez at Schertz.com. That's SGONZALEZ at Schertz.com. All right, well, let's get started. We have a couple of proclamations. First one is the Public Safety Communications Appreciation Week, April 14th through the 24th, 2024. And Councilmember Watson will be reading the proclamation. If I can please have those, please come up and to the podium, please.
National Public Safety Telecommunications Week, April 14th through the 20th, 2024. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, and emergency medical services. And whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, paramedics is critical to all the protection of the life and the preservation of the property. And whereas the safety of our police officers, firefighters is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the City of the Schertz Emergency Communications Center, and whereas public safety communicators are first and most critical contact where the citizens have the emergency service, and whereas the Public Safety Communicators Department has 17 employees, 1 communication manager, with 17 and a half years of experience, 4 shift supervisors, with a combined 53 years of experience, and 12 communication officers with a combined total of 28 years of experience. And whereas the public safety communicators of the City of Schertz answer approximately 102,000 calls in 2023, from which 77,000 calls were the service of Schertz and Cibolo Police Department, Schertz EMS Department, and Schertz Fire Department, whereas the safety communicators are a single vital link to our police officers and firefighters in monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information and ensuring their safety. And whereas the public safety telecommunicators of the City of Schertz have combined substantially to apprehension of criminals, suspension of fires, and treatment of patients. And whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. Now, therefore, it is resolved that Ralph Gutierrez, Mayor of City of Schertz, proclaim National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week 2020, April 14th to 2024. I encourage all citizens to join in honoring the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe. Sorry. Thank you. You know it. Megan. Good evening. So thank you for the recognition tonight. My name is Nicole Coleman. I am the communications manager over our dispatch center for Schertz and Cibolo. I appreciate the opportunity to speak about our amazing dispatchers. I am here tonight with some of the best people in this field that you will rarely see but always hear. They have the guts, but they rarely see the glory. They come into work every day making decisions that will last a lifetime. They never know the outcome, and they should shoulder that responsibility. We ask a lot from them, and they continuously give it their all. They love what they do, and they have dedicated their lives to staying calm, even when the call on the other end is dictating chaos. Even on their most difficult days, I hope they remember the impact of their work is immeasurable. Their unwavering commitment to their role is truly inspiring, and I am grateful for the contribution to our community and to our team. Your work does not go unnoticed. Thank you for your selfless service and for being the voice of reassurance in the face of uncertainty, and know that you are making a profound difference in the lives of many. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you, guys. Go ahead. This way.
Dispatch is not only for the city of Schertz, but the city of Cibolo. We're talking about close to 90,000 residents that they provide the dispatch service for. Thank you all so much. Appreciate it. Our next proclamation is the Work Zone Safety Week. Mayor Pro Tem Macaluso will be reading that proclamation.
National Work Zone Awareness Week, April 15th.
Can we have the representatives please step up here?
A little long, so be ready. Okay. National Work Zone Awareness Week, April 15th through the 19th, 2024. Whereas National Work Zone Awareness Week is an annual spring campaign held at the start of construction season to encourage safe driving through streets, roads, and highway work zones. And whereas National Work Zone Awareness Week is a way to raise public awareness for work zones and those who work in them, and the motorists are encouraged to slow to posted speeds, eliminate distractions while driving, and be watchful for roadway workers, their equipment, and vehicles on the side of the road in work zones. And whereas, according to the National Work Zone Safety Information Clearinghouse, in 2021, there were 874 fatal crashes in U.S. work zones, up from 780 in 2020. And whereas, on average, more than 2 persons per day were killed in work zones in 2020, and fatalities in work zone crashes increased from 845 in 2019 to 956 in 2021. And whereas the percentage of work zone fatal crashes from all fatal crashes increased from 1.8% in 2012 to 2.2% in 2023, and the estimates of injuries from work zone crashes increased in that same period from 31,000 to 42,000. And whereas during National Work Zone Awareness Week, national organizations such as the United States Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, the American Traffic Safety Services Association, the American Association of State Highway Transportation Officials, the Association of General Contractors of America, the National Safety Council, and a wide variety partners work collaboratively and partner on work zone and roadway safety, continually raising awareness of work zone safety. And whereas the City of Schertz Public Works Department focuses on safe roads and work zones, and the Texas Department of Transportation across the state strives to keep employees and the public safe during road and street repairs and work zones. And whereas Go Orange Day takes place on Wednesday, April 17th, 2024, and provides an opportunity to unite in wearing orange to show support for the men and women who work tirelessly to keep our roads safe. And whereas a moment of silence will be held Friday, April 19th, 2024, to honor the lives lost in work zones, and whereas solutions to keeping everyone safe in work zones and on our roadways is our collective responsibility. And therefore, be it further resolved that I, Paul Macaluse, on behalf of Ralph Gutierrez, Mayor of the City of Schertz, declare April 15th to the 19th, 2024 National Work Zone Awareness Week. With the theme, work zones are temporary, actions behind the wheel can last forever.
All right, thank you. We just appreciate taking a moment to recognize the folks out there. And so these are some of the faces you'll see in those work zones. And obviously, we want everybody to go home at night. So just please be careful going through them. And again, these are just city folks. So we got other utility providers that serve the residents of this city and contractors out there. So just appreciate the moment to recognize it.
Mayor, you can go with this.
Our next proclamation is the Animal Care and Control Week. Councilmember Hayward will be reading the proclamation. If I can have the representatives, please come on up.
Pick a side. I'll be reading the National Animal Care and Control Appreciation Week. But before I do that, I do sit on the Animal Advisory Board for the animal shelter. And they are an amazing group of people. I cannot say enough words at the things that they do, the initiative that they take to build that area, and just the care that they take with residents when they get a phone call out. They are absolutely amazing, and I am honored to be able to read this proclamation. Sorry, guys, I had to get emotional. National Animal Care and Control Appreciation Week, April 14th through the 20th, 2024. Whereas the National Animal Care and Control Association has designated the second full week in April as Animal Care and Control Appreciation Week. And whereas various federal, state, and local government officials throughout the country take time to recognize, thank, and commend all animal control officers and animal services staff for their dedication, service they provide to the citizens, public safety, domestic animals, and livestock across the nation. And whereas the City of Schertz recognizes and commends the Schertz Animal Services personnel who answer all calls for assistance, capturing, roaming, potential and dangerous animals, rescue animals, investigate reports of animal abuse, educate pet owners about responsible care, and mediate disputes between neighbors regarding pets. Whereas in 2023, the City of Schertz Animal Services responded to 2,124 calls of service and handled 1,214 animal intakes. And whereas the City of Schertz has staff that includes 1 animal service manager with 7.5 years of service, 4 animal service officers with combined 10 years experience, and 4 animal service technicians with combined 12 years of experience. Whereas in 2023, the Schertz Animal Services has developed partnerships with San Antonio Humane Society and other animal rescue organizations for placement of scared or ill animals. Whereas in 2023, the Schertz Animal Service Department continues their vision to have a special unit where they can care for neonatal animals, both domestic and wild. They have an entire room in full service dedicated to the care of infant animals, and they do a great job with that. Whereas animal control officers provide essential community functions, including the enforcement of animal control laws, protecting the public from disease such as rabies, and educating the public on the proper care of communities' pets. And now therefore be it resolved, I, Allison Hayward, with the Mayor Ralph Gutierrez of the City of Schertz, proclaim National Animal Control Appreciation Week, April 14th through the 20th, 2024. We encourage all citizens to join us in thanking our City of Schertz Animal Services for their dedication and exceptional service they provide to all citizens and animals in our community. And I don't go there because I'm not going home with an animal, but they do a fantastic job.
Wrote a little something down. Thank you so much for the kind words and the recognition.
They're well deserved.
The Animal Services team are the most passionate, dedicated, and hardworking individuals that I have ever had the privilege of leading and working beside. They literally put their sweat and tears into their jobs every day. Their knowledge, training, and skills have set the standard for a higher level of professionalism within the animal control profession. This past year, the Animal Services team handled 1,131 animals. Now think about that. 8 people caring for, cleaning, and feeding over 1,100 animals, many of which are riddled with disease, and many are scared, fractious, and very difficult and dangerous to handle. They work tirelessly as a team to eradicate animal-borne diseases, rehabilitate orphaned and abandoned animals, and protect our community from dangerous animals. With that being said, we would not be able to preserve the welfare and the safety of our human and animals in our community if it were not for everyone in this room. We appreciate the support from our citizens and the teamwork from all departments within our organization. I always tell Lieutenant LaCour that so many of our visions and ideas and requests could stop at him, at our chiefs. And so we're extremely grateful of the support, not only from our department leadership, but from our city management, our city council, and our Schertz citizens. So thank you.
I just want to say thank you. Thank you for taking care of the pets, the lost pets. I was fortunate enough that we lost one of our pets in December, and we went a couple of days later and picked up Mr. George Bailey from the animal shelter, and he's been a blessing to all of us. But thank you all for what you do. By the way, they do handle snakes too, so I wouldn't even touch them. But okay, next proclamation, if I can have the administrative professionals, please join me up here. The City of Schertz Proclamation, National Administrative Professionals Week, April 21st through the 27th, 2024. And also National Administrative Professionals Day, April 24th, 2024. Whereas National Secretaries Week was organized in 1955 by the U.S. Department of Commerce, renamed to Professional Secretaries Week, and in the year 2000 became the Administrative Professionals Week. Whereas the Administrators Professional Week 2024 focuses on honoring office professionals who make office work reflecting the integral and significant role that professionals play in the modern business. Whereas administrative professionals play an essential role in coordinating the office operations of businesses, government, educational institutes, and other organizations. Whereas the administrative professionals is observed annually, and in our nation there are approximately 3.6 million administrative professionals. Whereas the City of Schertz administrative professionals have a combined total of over 100 years of experience. Whereas the work of professionals today require advanced knowledge and expertise in communications, computer software, office technology, project management, organization, customer service, and other vital office management responsibilities. Whereas administrative office professionals serve as information hubs, managing and cataloging information, organizing the office space, and mastering office technology. Whereas administrative professionals are employed in the public and private sector, including businesses, government, and academic settings. Now, therefore, let it be resolved, I, Ralph Gutierrez, Mayor for the City of Schertz, proclaim National Administrative Professionals Week, April 21st through April 27th, and also the National Administrative Professional Day, April 24th, in the City of Schertz. Thank you all so much. Mike's here. Anybody? No. As you can see, we have a lot of different offices within our city, and the function that they produce, they're so different in each aspect. And I just want to say thank you all. This is what gets our city rolling in so many different ways. Thank you so much. And with that, because we do have so many different offices, I have one for each. Our next proclamation is a Small Business Week, April 28th through May the 4th, and Councilmember Brown will read the proclamation. Could I please have the small business professionals please come up here?
And Maggie is the perfect representation for small business in Schertz. City of Schertz Proclamation, National Small Business Week, April 28th through May 4th, 2024. Whereas there are 31 million small businesses in the U.S., which roughly make up around 99% of all the businesses in the country. And whereas small businesses are the backbone and lifeblood of local economies and communities throughout the United States and serve as job creators and placemakers in our downtowns. And whereas shopping locally allows area residents to invest in their own neighborhoods and grow the vibrancy of their communities, making our cities a wonderful place to live, work, and play. And whereas small businesses have contributed significantly to the U.S. economy by generating wealth and creating approximately 1.5 million jobs every year. And whereas in 1963, after the proclamation from President John F. Kennedy, the first National Small Business Week was celebrated to honor the top entrepreneurs in every state, and the week became an annual practice to encourage other small business owners and enable them to learn from the success stories of the top performers. And whereas small businesses and small business support organizations like chambers of commerce, small business associations, and other nonprofit organizations are key collaborators in advancing our agenda for equitable economic growth. and whereas the contributions of our small business sector should be recognized and celebrated by our cities. And now therefore be it resolved that Ralph Gutierrez, Mayor of the City of Schertz, does hereby proclaim the week of April 28th through May 24th, 2024 as National Small Business Week and urge all the citizens of our city to take cognizance of this event and participate fittingly in its observance. Shop local.
Yes, yes.
No, thank you so much. Thank you to the community too, because without you all shopping local, these businesses could not survive. And I would say probably about 99% of all the chamber members that we have covering 20 cities and 10 counties, they're all small businesses. So thank you so much for what you do.
It's truly indeed, our businesses are the heartbeat of our city and our community. Thank you, Maggie, for representing our small businesses. And our final proclamation is Building Safety Month, and Councilmember Westbrook will be reading the proclamation.
Whereas the City of Schertz is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and essential role our homes, buildings, and infrastructure play, both in everyday life and when disasters strike. And whereas our confidence in the resilience of these buildings that make our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, plumbers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings, and whereas these guardians are dedicated members of the International Code Council, a nonprofit that brings together local, state, territorial, tribal, and federal officials who are experts in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality codes to protect us in the buildings where we live, learn, work, and play. And whereas these modern building codes include safeguards to protect the public from hazards such as hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, wildland fires, floods, and earthquakes. And whereas the Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of our community's largely unknown protectors of public safety, our local code officials who assures us of safe, sustainable, and affordable buildings that are essential to our prosperity. And whereas Mission Possible, the theme for Building Safety Month 2024, encourage us all to raise awareness about building safety on a personal, local, and global scale. And whereas each year, in observance of Building Safety Month, people all over the world are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety, resilience, and economic investment at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local and state building departments and federal agencies in protecting lives and property. Now therefore be it resolved that Ralph Gutierrez, Mayor of the City of Schertz, does hereby proclaim the month of May 2024 as Building Safety Month.
Thank y'all. The ICC puts on in the month of May every year this campaign for Building Safety Month. We work with building safety 12 months out of the year, but we appreciate this proclamation this month. We participate in this program every year. This month, we had a collaborative effort from everybody in our department to put on some reels that, as I understand it, are going to be on the social media. So we invite everybody to go on to their favorite social media account and see those reels. There's some tips for all our residents for building safety and doing work at home and being safe while doing it. We are also going to Lowe's on the 14th and the 16th of May between 9 and 11 each morning We'll be at Lowe's. We'll have a table up in front of Lowe's. Invite everybody to come out and take a look at us. Ask us any questions you might have. That's what we're there for. Any permitting questions, any building questions you might have, we'll be happy to answer for it. If you can't make it at Lowe's, 8 to 5, we're open every day. You can come to our window. We'll be more than happy to help you. Thank you all.
Next, we have a presentation, the milestone pin, and our city manager, Mr. Williams, will be presenting that.
Chris, come on up. So y'all know I love giving these tenure awards. We do it at the 1-year anniversary and then 5-year increments after that. And when they get to 20 years, it not only means they're old, but it means they get to come to council and we get to acknowledge them in front of the public and our council and the staff and the entire world. So I like to have a little bit of fun with this when we get started doing these. So what happened in February of 2004? So what happened was Super Bowl 38 was won by the New England Patriots and Tom Brady was the MVP, but also Janet Jackson had a little bit of a wardrobe malfunction. The price of a gallon of gas was $1.57. Mark Zuckerberg launched Facebook from his Harvard dorm room, and Lord of the Rings, Return of the King won Best Picture. I threw that in there. This is one of my favorite movies. There you go. But more importantly, the city of Schertz hired Chris King. So I've got a little bio to read here of Chris, a little that he fills out for us. And Chris started as a volunteer with the Cibolo Fire Department in August of 2001. He went to EMT school at night when he was a senior in high school, and then the fire academy the semester after high school graduation. He worked part-time as a firefighter for the cities of Cibolo, Selma, and Selma, and was hired full-time by the city of Schertz in February 2004. He was promoted to driver in 2007, and then again to lieutenant in 2014. He's currently stationed at Fire Station 3 and assigned to the hazmat team. So Chris was born at Columbus Air Force Base in Mississippi, because both of his parents were in the Air Force, and graduated from, is Maggie still here? From Clemens High School. There you go. In 2002, he lives in San Antonio with his wife and his kids. His wife, Colleen, is a nurse at University Hospital and is a graduate of UT. There you go. His oldest daughter, Brooklyn, is attending Trinity University and is a member of the debate team. His youngest daughter, Juniper, is in kindergarten at Anne Frank Inspire Academy. She plays soccer and does dance. They have 2 dogs, Gus, who's a golden retriever, and Finley, who's an Australian shepherd. He loves arts, music, movies, comedy, hiking, biking, and most of all, spending time with his family. So congratulations, sir. Would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Chapter 1. I'm just kidding. Just thank you to my family, first and foremost. I mean, I'm a lot to deal with, as you can imagine. Thank you for the support over all these years. And also thank you to the City Council. It's awesome to be recognized like this. I really appreciate it, not only for myself, but for all the other employees. This is great. And then, so I wanted to say 20 years responding to people's worst day is difficult, but I've gotten to do that with some of my best friends, and I appreciate you guys. And it's been inspiring to see the courage that they have day in and day out over 20 years. So thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris, for your dedication to this city. Appreciate it so much. Thank you. Before we move on, one last opportunity. If you have not signed up for the hearing the residents and you'd like to speak, there is one more opportunity. Please come up and sign up. Last chance. Right. We'll move on then. All right. Next, we have city events and announcements. Ms. Gonzalez?
Thank you, Mayor. This Saturday, April 20th, Love Where You Live is going to be having their Spring Outreach Service Day. It's from 8 a.m. to about 4 p.m. The meetup time will be location at the North Center, which is at 3501 Morning Drive. You will need to register ahead of time if you plan to go, and you can do this online at lwlyschertz.com. Also on Saturday is Education in the Park, and that will be from 10 to 11 a.m. at Crescent Bend Nature Park. On Sunday, April 28th, there's a couple events going on at Crescent Bend Nature Park. First, a walk with a naturalist at 3:30, and then that evening, Owl Prowl is going on from 8:30 to 9:30. And finally, we'll be back here on Tuesday, May 7th for the next regularly scheduled council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Next, announcements and recognitions by our city manager, Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of promotions this month. We had Rashad Beecham went from patrol cadet to police officer, and Jessica Wheelis went from part-time library assistant to full-time library assistant. And that's all I have.
Next, announcements and recognitions by the mayor. First of all, I want to say thank you to our city staff. We had two major events that occurred since our last meeting. First was the Texas Air Show. We had our EMS, police department, and our fire department supporting the great Texas Air Show. And I just want to say, and our public works also was out there. Thank you so much for your contributions in making that a success. And this past weekend, we also had Moving on Main. Could not accomplish this without our city staff. I just want to say thank you all. Thanks to our city staff for providing for our community. Appreciate it. All right, so we'll move on. Next is a hearing the residents. This time is set aside for any person who wishes to address the city council. Each person is limited to 3 minutes, and we ask before addressing the council, for the record, please state your name and address. Mayor Pro Tem, please call our first speaker.
First, I have Mark Pinchorn.
Good evening, Mayor Gutierrez, members of the council, city staff, fellow citizens. My name is Mark Pinchorn, 8320 Trainer Hale Road, where I have lived since before Schertz was incorporated. A couple of weeks ago, I got a certified letter from the city of Schertz saying they were about to annex me. And so I thought I would throw in a little back history of that for those of you that are new to the area or have forgotten how it all came down. In 2001, I moved my dental practice to the corner of Dim Rock and 3009, where I had built a new building. Shortly thereafter, acting city manager Steve Simonson invited my wife Kathy and me to have a meeting with him at Chili's in the Forum. At the meeting, he told us that the city of Schertz had acquired from San Antonio the ETJ south of Randolph, bordered by 1604, Interstate 10, and 1518. After extolling the virtues of that particular deal, he told me that he had his eyes set on getting the ETJ from San Antonio on the east side of 1518, north of 10, and west of Cibolo Creek, south of Cibolo Creek, which is where I live. He asked me what I thought about that and what the other agricultural people would think about being in Schertz's ETJ versus San Antonio. And I told him I thought that anybody with any sense would rather be anywhere but San Antonio. So that was the end of that conversation. Fast forward at least half a decade, I forget exactly when, I got notice from a city staffer that that deal had actually happened, that Schertz was going to get the ETJ. And they asked me if I would drum up support from my area, because apparently the city of San Antonio wanted to know that a number of the people in the area at least wanted to do that. So I sent out letters and talked with all the neighbors, and the city of Schertz said that, we'll take care of you agriculturalists, we'll take care of the farmers and ranchers, we'll make sure there aren't any substandard subdivisions, and we'll make sure you can still farm and ranch. So we got a big group here. Everyone said yay. It all went through. They also said we weren't going to annex you anytime soon. Well, 2 years later, they say, well, we're going to annex you. So I was a little annoyed by that, and only partly assuaged by the fact that the city offered us a deferment in the form of a development agreement for 10 years, which of course I signed since I had no need for the city services and did not want to bear the extra taxes. Prior to the termination of that agreement, the city offered an extension because they were working on the development plan for the land use. So I signed that one also. That expired on the 1st of this year, and here we are. Nowhere in the past have I asked to be annexed. The only thing I volunteered to do is be in the ETJ. And at this point, since the letter said voluntary, I'm going to assume that that means without coercion or persuasion or compulsion. And I'm going to say before the city council that I do not wish to be annexed. I have nothing that you need, and you have nothing that I don't already have that I need. So, as I said back in October when I spoke to the city council, I do not wish to be annexed.
Next, I have Reagan, I believe it's Rock. Is that right?
Yes, Rowie. I'm Reagan Rowie. I live at 7993 Trainer Hill Road, Unit 4. We've got a family unit we've got 4 houses on the 200 acres that relatives have built on through the years. And I really beg to differ that y'all are calling it a voluntary annexation. It is not. An involuntary annexation ended in 2021 by the state legislature, especially in the Bexar County area. We have the qualifications of more than 500,000, and so we were told that even though we signed that, we signed it under duress because it was either sign it, the development agreement, or become annexed almost immediately. That is not voluntary annexation. I don't care what the last statement in that one paragraph said, that even if the laws change, the laws have changed, and they've changed in our favor. And you can't, just as Mark said, you cannot provide the services we already have. I mean, everybody is rural. We have septic tanks. You know, unless you can put in lay a line to the new Woman's Hollering sewer line over 1/4 mile, and you're going to have to pay for it for the same price as what it costs in the city to tie in at a street level. Basically, the state says you're not going to provide wastewater. From a standpoint of water, I understand that possibly y'all have come up with an agreement, but as of right now, you don't have the facilities to provide water to us. And I don't know when it will change, but you can't annex before you can provide services. And even if you do, the upgrades that would be needed that Green Valley is planning, you yourself said that we would not have any capital improvements in our area for 2.5 years. So I don't see it happening. When it comes to law enforcement, y'all have shown over and over again the crimes and stuff have increased over on the highway and other areas, and y'all can't handle it.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Next, Todd Hoffman.
Hello, and thank you for your time. I'm Todd Hoffman. I too am talking about annexation, but I'm concentrating just a little more on my own personal little properties that I have. With the new notices,
Could we please
don't
have
feel-
your address, please?
5751 FM 482 is
Thank
my household. It is not in Schertz. My property right across the street, y'all are trying to annex. I've got basically two little sections. I've got an aerial if you want to see them that are 26 or 28 and 2.5 acres. So it keeps me right under 30. I have an agriculture and exemption, specifically wildlife, which requires me to harvest deer, predator control, and things to keep my wildlife exemption. If y'all were to take me and I'm 100% in the floodplain, it can never be used for residential. It can never really be used for commercial. It's nothing but a floodplain on the side of the tracks. It is at the very northern east edge of the property that y'all are annexing. I've talked to Emily, and she said I needed to go before council to find out who can I talk to, because as he said, there's nothing y'all can bring me. My household is on one side of the street. I'm not in the ETJ, more so I'm in the Brothels ETJ. On the other side of the street, I'm in y'all's ETJ. My uncle's owns the other half of about 50 acres that we work together with on our wildlife exemption. And I'm trying to find out my main courses that I can still harvest my deer and shoot my hogs and my predators and maintain my wildlife exemption. Where do I go? And that's where I'm at. So can y'all give anybody what direction should I go to? Emily sent me to council. Who do I talk to?
Okay. Thank you, sir. We'll try to answer those questions when we finish with the hearing the residents.
Next, I have Marty Friesenhahn.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak here. My name is Marty Friesenhahn, 22900 Old Nacogdoches Road, New Braunfels, Texas, which has actually been that address since, well, it was right before that, before I was born, but anyways, it's never been Schertz. So with that, everyone mentioned the voluntary annexation. I received that letter and it said that, and if this was truly a voluntary annexation, I wouldn't be here today speaking to you. I'll have to say that. Agricultural land use. I'm fifth generation. Been working the land, farming, ranching, along with my family for over 167 years. So we've been around this area for many years. It's always been agriculture use, crops, livestock. The letter I received says that the property that should be annexed to mine is general business, and it's not general business. It's going to stay agriculture, and really I need confirmation of that as well, because that's what it's intended to be. It's always been, and that's what I plan on using it as, and that's happened for well over 150 years as well. And the non-conforming part really doesn't sit well with me, because I don't really believe in that. I like to follow the regulations and the law, right? So with that, general business doesn't allow, or according to the letter, there's actually discrepancies between the letter and your chart, by the way. It says that you allow livestock in your zoning chart, but in the letter that we got, the example said it doesn't allow livestock or agricultural crops. So there's a difference there. So my main thing on that part is we need confirmation that we can continue doing with the land. That's kind of what I read out of it, but I need to make sure of that, because that's extremely important to where we're at and what we've done. Services. There's a statement in there, and I don't really want to read all of it, but it basically seems like a loophole of not providing services. It states certain things like the population density, the topography, and so forth. Those will be considerations of not providing those services. So in the service plan, it gives all these services that will be provided to us. So my question is, are these services going to be provided to us? Or better yet, what services will not be provided to us based on experience of talking to my neighbors and people that have already been through this? Okay, police protection. Says it's going to provide the same level that we get or you would provide in the city. Okay, past experience, I had a car flip over in our property. We call 911. All I get is this argument of, well, is it city of Schertz? Is it New Braunfels? Is it Canal County? You know, I want some assurance that if that's what we're going to be annexed, that we will truly, have that service. If we call, it's known that it's city of Schertz, right? And there was a guy flipped over and his life was on the line. And here I'm sitting having to convince somebody that this is, where I'm at and city of Schertz, whatever you want to call it, that's where we're at. Because it was on the road that was really city. Okay, summary.
Thank you,
voluntary
sir.
annexation,
Thank you.
not really. Services provided, high taxes. Does not appear we're going to get the services that are provided.
Okay, next I have Mark Friesenhahn.
Isn't this fun? Mark Friesenhahn, 231 High Creek Road, New Braunfels. Mayor, council members, Marty's my young brother. We've been out in that part of the county forever. My comments aren't about annexation. We knew 14 years ago this was coming. I have several questions about agriculture and services. Let's start with the agriculture. It's really not a question. Agriculture is not allowed, non-conforming. You heard Marty cite the words from your pile of legalese. We've been farming the land for over 160 years, and we're going to keep doing that. Well, we hope that all fits. And by the way, do y'all answer questions in this session, or do I just talk and you look at me?
No, you can just talk. We'll answer any questions you may have after the hearing the residents.
Good. Services. There's a backdrop here. My second brother and I own land on Friesenhahn Lane that's been in the city for 14 years. This is the service we've gotten, okay? Zero. The road's deteriorated. You've allowed trucking companies to inhabit part of the land on that road, violating the federal navigable waterways rights, and then they left. You forced them out finally. We've got nothing, water, sewer, trash, none of the services, okay? That's the backdrop for my questions. You've given us this big stack of legalese. I'm not a lawyer. I spent my life doing engineering work, and now I'm a pecan farmer. There's two things: capital improvements within 2 years, services provided at the point of annexation, and then capital improvements to be provided within 2.5 years. And they all have these key words. The land use, topography, land use, and population density as those found in newly annexed areas at the same or similar level of service. You see where I'm going? We got zero service on Friesenhahn Lane. These properties you're going to annex now are right adjacent to them. So it's totally obvious. Your lawyers will tell you nothing is needed, it's just not justified. And the question I'll ask is, does that mean you're not going to provide any more services than we've had on Friesenhahn Lane? That's a yes or a no. When we consider this lack of service and your staff's actions to deny my brother and I full use and enjoyment of the property that we have there within the city, we conclude that we're going to start paying high taxes and not get anything out of it. We're already doing that on the property. Y'all's taxes are right up there with the best. And we're getting zero services. That's not much fun when you write your checks in December. So what I'm going to ask is, will you proportion our taxes to the level of service you provide? Zero service times 100% would be zero city taxes. That seems fair to me, folks. Thank you. And that's a question that I'd like to answer. Can you proportion the taxes? And I'm out of time.
Okay, next I have Charlene Fay.
Mayor and council members, my name is Charlene Fye, and I live at 6028 FM 42, New Braunfels, Texas, in Comal County. I, like many of those others that you have heard, received annexation packages, and I have questions.
Could you speak more into the mic so we can hear you?
Okay.
Thank you so much.
My husband and I, we own about a little over 100 acres in Comal County, property ID 79004, 79006, and 79009. We received those packages, and in Regards to that, I believe the development agreements and the extensions thereto about these properties have expired. I do not believe those contracts are enforceable. And as the owner of properties ID 79004, 79006, 79009, I do not consent to the annexation, voluntary or otherwise. Now, if by chance you do force annexation upon us, we will have a lot of issues to resolve. Our land and agricultural operations have been in our family for over 134 years. One house in ID 79009 was built in 1927 and the other in 1948. The houses, barns, and lands are historically significant to our family, and we want to continue the agricultural operations and the upkeep of these structures. On another note, please know that the Dry Comal Creek runs directly through our property, as does the El Camino Real National Historic Trail. Both of these would impact, I think, the appropriate zoning of our land. So if the annexation is forced, we will have questions regarding the zoning and nonconformity uses. And I hope that we would have a chance to visit with the appropriate departments to discuss the zoning concerns before this next scheduled May 8th hearing. The time frame seems very, very short, and I think to answer all the questions for all these people in this room about zoning, that the time frame should be looked at. And my last note, just our land is situated, we have one neighbor, and our neighbor and our land is surrounded on 3 sides by companies that own aggregate operations. We have Dean Word on one side and behind us, and we have Capital Aggregates on the other side. And to my knowledge, those companies' lands that surround us are not included in this annexation process. And it just, I would like to know how you can reach in there and grab us and not them.
Thank you. He's on there? No. No.
All right, Timothy Phi.
Yes, go ahead. All right.
Did I go ahead and read that?
Yes.
Or do you want the copy?
Do you have an extra copy?
Yes, I do.
Okay, yes, I will hold on to that.
Or do you take up? Here's 3 signed copies.
All right. If you can state your name and then just say proxy force. Okay, thank you.
My name is Charlene Phi. I live at 6028 FM 482 in New Braunfels, Texas. I have a proxy to speak on behalf of my sister, Sandra Ray, R-E-E-H. Her address is 5887 FM 482, New Braunfels, Texas.
Thank you.
She became ill today and is running fever, but she also received the annexation packages, and in that regard, she wants to go on record about her property IDs, which are 79001, 78945, 78946, 75480, 78247. I believe that's a little over 122 acres. And she says both my initial development agreements and extensions on these properties with the city of Schertz have expired. As the owner of the above properties, she wants to go on record that she does not consent to voluntary annexation with the city of Schertz. And that is all she said.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Timothy Phi.
Thank you for allowing me to speak.
My name is Timothy Fye. I live at 6028 FM 482, New Braunfels, Texas. Don't have a whole lot to add from what my wife has already spoken about, but we do have the properties, as she mentioned. I'll list them again. Property IDs 79004, 79006, and 79009. Again, we don't believe that the developmental agreement and extensions are valid. They have expired, and we do not consent to annexation at this time. So that is our position. As far as the services that are being provided currently, she had mentioned that we're surrounded by these aggregate facilities. The trucking industry has just taken over the area. There's no regulations on them. These are independent truckers, and I know everybody wants to make a living. You know, that's part of the way to live. But they speed through there. I can't even cross the road to bring my hay across for the cows. There's times we can't even get our mail. The services you're going to provide, there'll be a fight between, is it a state highway, is it a city? There'll be all these things. We can't provide the service. Again, reiterating, are the services going to be provided if we're forced at some point to actually become part of the city? I don't think they're being done now by just about anybody that's out there. I think we see the county pull people over once in a while. Maybe a highway patrol might come through, but it's pretty sorry for our children on buses, for the people riding bicycles, all these things that they want to come out and see agricultural areas in this city if you're going to annex us. And the zoning that we've gotten in these packages are just unacceptable at this time. So those are our thoughts. We don't give our consent to voluntary. We don't consider it voluntary at this point. And I just want to go on record tonight. So thank you.
No, sir. No.
Next, we have Ronald, I believe it's Schott.
Ronald Schott. I live at 1300 Engle Road, New Braunfels, Texas. I'm in Guadalupe County. And I came here in 2010. They going to annex us. I had two options. Either sign an agreement for 10 years and not pay taxes, or immediately start paying taxes. That's not voluntary. Not voluntary at all. I still don't want to be annexed. I really don't want to be in the city of Schertz. City of Schertz lets these developers do anything they want. The developer that's behind me right now has ruined 3 acres of my land. That 3 acres now is a swamp, and it prevents me to getting to the other 5 acres that I used to farm. So no, I do not voluntarily go for annexation.
Last, I have Maggie Titterington.
Good evening, Council. Maggie Titterington, 1730 Schertz Parkway. Just a few quick chamber updates for you. Had a great luncheon today. Our nonprofit luncheon had 192 businesses and representatives show up, and 22 nonprofit organizations around the area, and they just made a lot of great connections. We were very grateful that we had such a good showing. Also at this luncheon, and I also wanted to officially thank the community again, our Young Professionals Hypergroup held a shred day at the Kramer House, and they were able to donate $1,200 that they raised from a free shred day to the SCUC ISD Education Foundation. Residents in the area were allowed to bring up to 5 boxes, and it was promoted as free, but suggested a $5 donation to give to the Education Foundation. And so from the free shred drive, like I said, the generosity of our community was pretty awesome, $1,200 worth. Also on May 3rd, if you could please mark your calendars, we have a new coffee shop coming in. 10 a.m. we're going to be doing a ribbon cutting for Northern Delights Coffee, and that is in the place that the old Coney Island Hot Wieners place used to be. Very happy to see that place, it's a really good real estate place for a small business, especially a coffee shop that has a little outdoor patio area. So if you would join us May 3rd, 10 a.m., that is when we're going to officially cut the ribbon and open them. And last but not least, next month's luncheon, TxDOT will be coming up to update us on all the projects that we are currently struggling through and driving through on IH-35, as well as the areas beyond that, just so that we know how our businesses are going to be impacted. And also, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll find out about the progression of 1103, the Schertz portion, also going towards the Cipolo portion, and seeing when that's going to get started. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda items. These are considered self-explanatory, and information packets were provided to council and available for public viewing. These items require no separate discussion unless requested by council. Item number 1, minutes. Item number 2, ordinance number 24S11. Item number 3, ordinance number 24S15. Item number 4, ordinance number 24S16. Item number 5, ordinance number 24S14. Item number 6, resolution number 24R44. Item number 7, resolution number 24R46. Item number 8, resolution number 24R45. Item number 9, resolution number 24R47. And item number 10, resolution number 24R48. Council, do any of these need to be removed for separate action? Is there a motion to approve consent agenda items 1 through 10?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Councilmember Hayward and a second by Councilmember Watson. Any discussions? Council, if you can please cast your vote. We can publish the vote, please. We have 7 yeas, no objections. Motion passes. All right, we'll move on to discussion items. Item number 11, resolution number 24R41. Authorizing a resolution accepting a petition for voluntary annexation of approximately 507 acres known as Comal County, property identification numbers 75449, 75463, 79012, 75462, 78923, 374148, 79018, 79017, 75468, 374146, 374145, 374144, 374147, 78218, 78957, 78960, 78976, 79001, 78945, 78946, 75480, 78247, 79009, 79006, 79004, and approximately 387 acres known as Guadalupe County property identification numbers 63992, 61614, 68378, 68377, 68382, 68381, 68380, 68374, 61615, 68384, 68385, 68383, 61511, 6190, 61609. Thank you. Ms. Delgado, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. This is for Resolution 24R41 for a petition of annexation for Comal County and Guadalupe County. Emily Delgado, Planning Manager. So some background, annexation of land into the city's corporate limits may be voluntary or involuntary. The Texas Local Government Code, or the LGC, provides requirements and outlines the process based on the annexation type. The proposed annexations are voluntary based on the delayed annexation development agreements that were originally entered into in 2010 and 2011, and the extensions that were offered in 2020 and 2021. In 2010 and 2011, the City of Schertz entered into delayed annexation development agreements with property owners based on the Texas Local Government Code Section 43.035B1 and 212.172 in order to guarantee the continuation of the extraterritorial status of the land for the term of the agreement and authorize the enforcement of all regulations and planning authority of the city that did not interfere with the use of the land for agricultural, wildlife management, or as timberland. Per these agreements that were signed and executed, specifically in Section 5 of those agreements, annexation at the end of the term stipulated that 10 years after the effective date of the agreement, the property would be annexed into the City of Schertz. Now, if you think back to 2020 and 2021, we were in the midst of COVID and that nationwide and statewide declaration. So City Council authorized the city manager and staff to enter into and offer development agreement extensions, both because of COVID and because we were in the, the starting process of that comprehensive land use plan update that was just recently approved. And by offering those extensions, it would allow, when the annexations were to happen, the new comp plan would be adopted, and we would utilize that for the zoning when the properties were being annexed. These extensions would provide the same rights as previously established in the original agreement, but would delay the annexation of the properties to a later date. Specifically, the extensions would be in effect until January 1st, 2024, at which time the City of Schertz would begin annexation proceedings and conclude them no later than December 31st of this year. So at this time, that first date identified in the agreement, January 1st, has passed, and with the approval of Ordinance 24-S06, the Comprehensive Land Use Plan was officially adopted and can be utilized for zoning cases moving forward. So per the development agreement extension, city staff has started the annexation and zoning process in accordance with those extensions. Resolution 24R41 is the first city council step in the annexation process. For these parcels, specifically 24R41 would accept a petition for voluntary annexation of 25 properties, approximately 529 acres within Comal County, and 14 properties, approximately 477 acres within Guadalupe County. In an effort to provide the property owners within the annexation area with information about the process, a letter was mailed to each property owner providing a tentative calendar for the annexation and zoning process. In addition to the calendar, staff included history on the original agreement, the extensions, what staff is proposing for the zoning designation of the property, our code section for Article 7, the non-conforming use section within the Unified Development Code, and again, the zoning based off of the comprehensive land use plan designation from the new comp plan. Upon City Council accepting Resolution 24R41, which is the petition for voluntary annexation, if approved tonight, the annexation process and the zoning could actually begin. So just for clarity, tonight's Resolution 24R41 does not annex the subject properties, but just allows for the process to continue forward. An ordinance for annexation of the subject properties must be approved by City Council, and that is tentatively scheduled for June 4th, that City Council meeting, which was what was provided in that tentative calendar to the property owners. And the accompanying zoning application is tentatively scheduled for the May 8th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for a recommendation on the zoning. So here are those properties in Comal County, just to kind of get your bearings. Here's 35, Schwab Road. So you can see that properties outlined here in green are the ones that are proposed to be annexed within Comal County. And then here are those properties in Guadalupe County that are proposed to be annexed. Staff is recommending approval of Resolution 24R41 to accept a petition for voluntary annexation. The properties identified within the ordinance, within the resolution and identified on the agenda as well.
Thank you, Ms. Delgado. All right, council, floor is open for discussion. Councilmember Brown.
Question on this is the process. Okay, so this, the ordinance tonight allows us to continue with the process. It is not annexation. If we pass this tonight and the decision is to not zone anything for a while, do we have that as an option?
Dan?
So these properties will be zoned upon annexation. That's the intention. So what they are zoned or whether or not they're ultimately annexed will be decided at a future date. It'll go through a parallel process in the Planning and Zoning Commission so that when they come forward to the City Council, they will be annexed and then zoned consecutively on that agenda.
I think my question is, if we approve the ordinance tonight, do we have to annex within a certain amount of time?
So, yes, we do. The resolution starts the process with regard to, it's going to schedule the public hearings that are going to take place. I think you have those in your agenda
Right,
memo.
I saw those.
Right. When the ultimate time comes to approve the annexation ordinance, though, that's within the discretion of the council, whether that property is annexed or all of that property is annexed at the time it comes before the council. But if you keep these properties within here, I mean, I think what the last communication was that this would be completed by December.
Emily, maybe you can, I think some of the concern is the zoning and the ability to use your land as they currently are using it. So can you explain, under the process of annexation, how the use doesn't necessarily change because it's zoned only, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir. So the proposed zoning that was identified in the letters that was sent to the property owners, it was based off of the corresponding comprehensive land use plan designation. So based off of what the future land use map that was recently adopted by council, right, there's a zoning district that corresponds with that. That zoning district is what was identified to the property owners. In terms of, you know, if we're proposing to zone the property single-family residential R2, and it's currently used for agricultural. That agricultural use from the permitted use table is not permitted. However, since they're currently using that property for agricultural purposes, it would be considered non-conforming upon annexation, and they can continue to utilize the property as agricultural land. They would just have the limitations within UDC Article 7, the non-conforming use section.
Which means that it would only change if they change the use of the
Exactly.
property
So if
to another use.
Yeah, so if they continue to use it for agricultural, the zoning designation doesn't necessarily affect, you know, they can continue to use the property for ag. It's when they want to change the use from agricultural to residential, then the zoning, the new proposed development would have to be in conformance with the zoning district that's established with the annexation.
So would you say in the case of the Comal County properties that are located near the heavy industrial uses, if their property is zoned GB2 or the property next to them is, GB, then it's likely that if somebody sells that land and somebody else buys it, it's going to conform to those uses, which are a lot less heavy industrial. It's a lighter commercial use than, say, what's around them now. You can't build a rock quarry in a GB district.
Yes, sorry,
So
I was a little...
it'll protect the property owner next to them from a heavy use?
Potentially, yes. So I don't know, you know, looking at the map right now, I can't tell you exactly which property is proposed to be zoned, you know, X. That's not on this map, but yes. Zoning is in place to help protect the property, the adjacent properties, and again, right, the proposed zoning is based off of, you know, what was adopted as part of the comp plan.
So really, the current landowners, even though if they become annexed into the city of Schertz, can continue doing what they're doing on their land until such time that if they do or their heirs decide to sell the land will be used for that future zoning, will fall in with that future zoning at the time. So there will be no change to current uses or desires, whatever. Because I was getting this feeling that they were told that, no, they're going to have to change.
So whatever use is currently happening can continue to happen, even if they, you know, give the property to their sibling or their child. As long as that land use continues and doesn't cease, it can continue to be ag, it can continue to have livestock. That land use can continue, even with annexation and zoning.
Councilmember Hayward.
So then with the zoning map, I guess I'm piggybacking off of Councilmember Brown. They can keep doing what they're doing. What happens if they sell the property? Then that means it goes to the proposed zoning from the comprehensive land use plan?
So if the properties are annexed, the zoning, as Dan stated, the annexation and zoning would happen at the same meeting. So the zoning will be in place regardless of them keeping the ag use going. The property will be general business, or it'll be single-family R2. That'll be the zoning, but they can continue that ag use. So even if they sell the property, if the next person that buys it wants to continue doing it as ag, that can happen. It's just if that next person wants to develop the property, they would have to develop it in accordance with that zoning district.
Okay, and then the next question I have is because typically, and in the statement of when it's annexed, we have to provide service. If we're not providing service immediately upon annexation, how is that gonna work? Or is it because it's gonna stay in the same agricultural zoning, current use that they're using?
I'll take a crack at that one, Councilwoman Hayward. In terms of service provided, some services will be provided immediately upon annexation. Others might correspond to development in terms of maybe sewer service or water service. Those things are driven by development. There is a provision of that service currently, and I will clarify, it's the CCN holder that will provide those services. So in a lot of these areas, it's not the city's CCN. Some of them are in New Braunfels Utilities, some of them are in Green Valley SUD. So it's incumbent upon that provider to actually provide that service. So we'll have the ability to start extending service right away, or, you know, road maintenance, et cetera, right away.
Okay, okay. I just want to make sure they can keep using their land the way their land is, because I have a problem with annexing, and then if they can't do what they've been doing, that's where I have the issue.
I think that point has been clarified, that they can use the land even if they give it to their siblings or they sell it. The land use can remain the same. It's whether or not it is developed. It's got to be developed based on the zoning. Okay.
Right. Mayor, can I add one more thing?
Yes.
As far as taxation, because that was just brought up a couple of times. If you have an ag timber wildlife exemption on file with your appraisal district, you'll continue to carry that. That does not change with the annexation. It will only change if you change the use of that portion of your property that you're changing. So if your value right now is $1,054,910 and its actual taxable value is $3,770, you're going to pay the city's tax rate on that $3,700 a year. So it'll be a few dollars a year. So you will not incur a gigantic tax rate increase with the annexation from the city. It'll just add the cities to that reduced amount.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yes, sir.
Mayor Pro Tem Macaluso.
Just another clarification. I mean, you did state that they would be considered non-conforming. Is there any penalty to them as non-conforming other than a future development would require them to adhere to the current zoning that we end up deciding in the comprehensive plan?
So I don't necessarily know penalty, but there is an entire article in the Unified Development Code that they would have to follow that talks about expansions, you know, if they're allowed to expand, if they're allowed to, you know, rebuild. So they would be subject to that article.
So if they wanted to expand their house, what issue would they possibly have to deal with if they're considered non-conforming?
So I would say we would look at it.
Yeah, there wouldn't be an issue on a house.
No.
Because the use, it's ag use is what it is, and a house is allowed in ag use. So that's not an expansion of a non-conforming use if it's living quarters. It's just like if they add 3 cows to the herd, I don't think that under our interpretation, that would be an expansion of the non-conforming use.
Or Dan, if you added a barn or something that went along with that use, it would not be non-conforming. I mean, it would be
doesn't-
acceptable
yeah.
in that use.
Yeah, that's going to be up to, I guess, ultimately a staff interpretation, but I don't see that with that particular type of zoning.
Okay.
I guess I just try and understand it in their shoes. I mean, are they to have to guess, well, what is going to cause an issue for me if I want to do some kind of changes? I still want to keep it agriculture, but, I want to do, is it strictly just a change in usage of the land that would cause an issue with the non-conforming?
Do you have chapter, whatever the chapter is with non-conforming use that you can run through?
So this is Article 7, the nonconforming uses, lots and structures. So this section here indicates the nonconforming status. I mean, do you want me to read?
I think it's number 3, maybe, that we're concerned about.
Read the whole thing?
No, number 3. I know,
Yes. So
21's up, yeah.
So A says, except as provided in section 21.7.9 below, any use, platted lot, or structure that does not conform with the regulations of this UDC on the effective date hereof, or any amendment hereto, shall be deemed a nonconforming use, platted lot, or structure, provided that such use, platted lot, or structure, and I'm reading 3 here, sorry, was in existence at the time of the annexation into the city, was a legal use of the land at such time, and has been in regular continuous use since such time. So basically, upon annexation, the use that's happening right then is what's deemed non-conforming and would be subject to this. But going to what Dan indicated, if it's part of the agricultural business, if it's part of their livestock business, we wouldn't necessarily consider that an expansion. If they're growing their herd, if they need to dig a stock tank, or they need to repair, some of their cattle pens, something like that, that wouldn't be an expansion of their non-conforming use. It's part of that business, the agricultural operation that they already have.
And I would add that there's also protections, and we don't have to go into this because it's not really germane to our conversation, but there's protections for agricultural uses in the actual agricultural code as well. And that state law is going to limit what you can do with local zoning regulations to limit agricultural uses. And they expanded that in the last legislative session as well.
Okay, any other questions? Any other comments? Is there a motion to approve resolution number 24R41?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 24R41 based on the discussion we just had about not changing uses.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Was that Councilmember Davis? Okay. Motion's been made by Councilmember Brown, second by Councilmember Davis. Council, any other comments? If you can please cast your vote. If we can publish the vote, please. We have 7 yeas, no objections. Motion passes. All right. We'll move on to item number 12, resolution number 24R42. Authorizing resolution accepting a petition for voluntary annexation of approximately 2,200 acres known as Bear County Property Identification Numbers 310064, 1141730, 339-772, 339-773, 339-362, 339-744, 1050203, 340-030, 339-348, 339-359, 339-341, 339-353, 339-778, 310012, 309-842, 310125, 339-293, 339-295, 340059, 1178-479, 339-276, 310059, 309418, 309421, 339-325, 339-284, 309-837, 110-3093, 310-111, 310-040, 310-004, 310-225, 339-274, 339-275, 339-324, 101-3798, 310-222, 310-026, 1274, 920, 339-286, 339-285, 310019, 1139530, 105-6967, 339-331, 117-8480, 309-427, 309-425, 310-006, 1056-966, 312-023, 310-002, 310-048, 311-565, 310-022, 312-015, 312-017, 310-126, 339-290, 339-288, 339-709, 790. Again, that number is 339-790, 339-334, 339-329, 114-0481, 310-007, 312-008, 309-429, 119-0132, 310-032, 310-039, 310-090, 310-107, 1103-091, 120-7560, 110-3092. Mr. Delgado, floor is yours.
So this is for Resolution 24R42, a petition of annexation for Bear County. Emily Delgado, Planning Manager. I apologize. So Resolution 24R42, a petition of annexation, Bear County, Emily Delgado, Planning Manager. So this is all basically the same information as the Comal and Guadalupe County annexation petitions. The properties in Bear County were also offered delayed annexation development agreements in 2010 and 2011, and then extensions offered in 2020 and 2021, deeming these as voluntary annexations. And again, those original agreements were for a period of 10 years after the effective date of the agreement. And then in 2020, 2021, we offered those extensions due to COVID and trying to complete the comprehensive land use plan amendment. These extensions provided the same rights as previously established, and those extensions would be in effect until January 1st, 2024, at which time the City of Schertz would begin annexation proceedings and concluding them no later than December 31st, 2024. So at this time, that first date, the January 1st, has passed, and the approval of Ordinance 24S06, the Comprehensive Land Use Plan, can be utilized for the associated zoning for these properties to be annexed. And again, 24R42 is just that initial first step. It doesn't actually annex the properties, it's just the initial step for the annexation process. And it's for voluntary annexation of 75 properties, approximately 2,200 acres within Bexar County. So just like the Comal and Guadalupe County properties, we sent letters to the property owners in Bexar County, providing them information about the process, the proposed zoning for their properties. The Bexar County properties would follow the same timeline calendar as the Comal and Guadalupe. So these two annexations, the Comal and Guadalupe group and then the Bexar County group, will follow the same meeting schedule, with the first annexation hearing on June 4th at that city council meeting, and then the associated zoning to be scheduled for the May 8th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. So this is all of the properties proposed for annexation in Bexar County, and I know the map's small just based off of the configuration of Schertz. So we have that broken down into this group here, so you can see 1518 Schaefer Road, Lower Seguin. The properties identified in green are the ones proposed to be annexed at this time. And then here is that lower group, so Trainer Hale, 1518 I-10. And staff is recommending approval of 24R42, accepting a petition for voluntary annexation of the approximately 2,200 acres within Bexar County.
Thank you, Ms. Delgado. All right, council, floor is open for discussion. I think most of our questions were answered on the previous resolution. Councilmember Westbrook.
All right, so they had several concerns. Could we get an example? I don't know if you have one of, they had two concerns about safety and security, law enforcement. I don't know if anybody can speak to how safe it'll be if we actually have enough police officers to cover their area, how quickly they could respond. And the second, I think, concern they had was taxes. Do you or does somebody happen to have an example of taxes that may be incurred if they're annexed? All right.
I just randomly pulled up one of the properties, and it's in Comal County. I mean, I could pull another one if you like, but the market value is $1,054,000. After the ag exemption is applied, the taxable value is $3,770. So it'd be an impact of $18 a year in property taxes.
So that's.
And they're all going to vary based on the property and the level of exemption.
That doesn't seem excessive, but I don't know about the law enforcement. Is like how many law enforcement do we have patrolling that area? How often?
Currently, the city, they're not in the city, so city police would not respond or patrol that area. That would be part of our annexation plan, service plan, correct?
Correct.
So we would outline, through this process, you have to develop an annexation service plan, and that would be outlined in the plan.
But we do patrol somewhere on Halley's Cove, this I-10?
Halley's Cove is in the city.
Is in the city? But you do have patrol out there for Halley's Cove?
Yes.
Which is neighboring right next to some of the area. Anyway, we have law enforcement, and then there's no concern that we would not be able to respond in a timely manner if you had an emergency. I mean, we already respond to there, so I don't know if. No, you don't respond to the green area, but we do respond to Halley's Cove, which is right next to there.
So in terms of services provided, we currently provide EMS in all of those areas, as well as fire service. We have an agreement with the county to provide that service. The level of service is generally driven by the demand. If one of those areas were to redevelop as a neighborhood, it would more likely than not increase the level of service provided. So, does that answer your question?
Yes, sir, it does.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember Brown.
Yeah, just a little bit of a statement, I guess, for the folks out there. I think from our previous questions and discussion, we want to make sure that your current uses remain your current uses as your wishes you know, and not impede on, you know, on any of that. This does a couple of things for us. One, it allows you to continue your uses, but if you do, somewhere in the future, decide to sell, change use, however that works, whether it's you, your future family, whatever, at least the city has some way to control that growth out there into whatever the zoning that P&Z recommends and we eventually adopt. As far as the services, I think Mr. Williams made that very clear, is all of this will be covered with a or annexation services plan. I know that it's kind of weird anyway, but a lot of homeowners insurance policies will probably go down because of the level of service coverages out there. You know, I can't say that for sure, but you know, I know I've seen that before in different areas. But I want y'all to be reassured that I don't ever want to change anybody's use of their land. I fully respect the use of your land for what you use it for, okay? But at the same time, I'm also looking at what happens in the future when you, your sons, your granddaughters, your great-grandchildren decide to sell that property, you know, and making sure that there's some way to plan usage so that, say somebody wanted to sell 100 acres, and if we didn't have it annexed, a developer could potentially come in there and put something in and not have to meet city code, city zoning, you know, and then that would, you talk about non-conforming, that would, not just non-conforming, but just acceptable for the area. So that's all I want to say. Is we're not trying to take anything away from anybody. I want to kind of protect the future, if you will, as much as anything.
No, I think Councilmember Brown has a valid point there. You know, it is not only to protect the city, but also to protect your neighbor. If you decide you want to put something in there that's non-conforming, your neighbor is right next to you, and he might not approve of it, whatever it might be. So it offers both things. It protects the neighbor from making sure that what's next to you is conforming with what our plans are with the city. And I think that's another way that you could look at it when it comes to the zoning issue. Because you know, you don't want to plant right next to it while you have farmland that you're farming. So it serves both purposes. It protects your neighbor, and it also protects the city to make sure that what's placed in that is conforming to what our future vision is of this city. Right, Council, any other comments? Is there a motion to approve resolution number 24R42?
I motion we accept resolution 24R42.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion made by Councilmember Watson, second by Councilmember Brown. Any other comments? If you can please cast your vote. We can publish the vote, please. We have 7 ayes, no objections. Motion passes. At this time, we'll take a 5-minute recess. If I can please have council take their seats, we'll get started.
So we used to have city Schertz control line.
All right, the time is 7:52. We reconvene into our regular session after our small recess. Next on the agenda is item number 13, ordinance number 24A10. Approve an ordinance on a petition for voluntary annexation of approximately 7 acres, a portion of Bear County property identification number 339286, also known as 8215 Trainer Hill Road, City of Schertz, Bear County, Texas. Final reading. Council, does this require a second presentation? No. Okay. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 24A10?
So moved.
Motion's been made by Councilmember Davis and second by Councilmember Watson. Any other comments? Council, if you can please cast your vote. Okay, we can publish the vote, please. We have 6 yeas, no objection, motion passes. We'll move on to item number 14, ordinance number 24S09. Approve a request to zone approximately 7.7 acres of land, a portion of Bear County, property identification number 339286 to single-family residential district R1, also known as 8215 Trainer Hill Road, City of Schertz, Bear County, Texas. Final reading. Council, does this require a second presentation? No?
No.
Is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Macaluso and second by Councilmember Watson. Any other comments? Council, if you can please cast your vote. We can publish the vote, please. We have 7 yeas, no objections. Motion passes. We'll move on to item number 15, resolution number 24R40. Authorize a pro rata agreement, cost-sharing agreement, and road impact fee credit agreement for the Saddlebrook development. All right. Ms. Woodley, floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I want to let everyone know I'm pinch hitting for Brian this evening on this item, so I may not have all the figures on the, no, I will not have the figures on the top of my head, but I've got the things here and we'll get answers for you. So this resolution covers 4 agreements. The first 3 probably would have been on consent agenda. They're fairly standard agreements with subdivision developments. There's a reimbursement agreement, and those are some items that the city needs, that it makes sense to get some economies of scale, have the developer construct those improvements while they're building their subdivision, and we will reimburse for those small items. So that's what the reimbursement agreement is about. There's a roadway capital recovery offset agreement, so the developer is constructing a portion of commonly known as the 3009 extension. It's actually Redbud Canyon, I believe, in the Saddlebrook subdivision. So since they're constructing that, and that is on our master thoroughfare plan, they get credit toward their roadway impact fee payments that would be made when the homes are built. The last fairly standard agreement is a pro rata agreement, and that is for the city to pay for the excess capacity that they're building in the lift station and force main, so that those amounts, we have some control over which developments coming in will be able to use those EDUs or the capacity in the lift station. In addition to those 3 agreements, which are, like I said, fairly standard, the developer has also asked to be able to enter into a subdivision improvement agreement, which is an agreement that allows them to record their plat and sell properties on that plat prior to the infrastructure being completed and accepted by the city. A few years ago, we would get requests like this from developers, residential developers and commercial developers. And what happens quite often with I shouldn't say it happens quite often, but it happens that a residential subdivider will do a preliminary plat, a final plat. They will put up security for the infrastructure, then record the final plat. That allows them to sell the lots. They can sell the individual lots. Maybe someone comes in, buys the lot, wants to put their home on that lot. We aren't able to give them a C of O because the developer has not completed construction of the infrastructure. So it really creates problems for new citizens moving into the city, and also creates a problem for the city to try and keep after that developer to get that infrastructure done. So it's a really big problem for residential subdivisions. Now for commercial subdivisions, on occasion, a developer will want to file a plat. They'll basically just want to flip some property. And so they may put up some security for infrastructure, sell the property. The buyer of the property thinks they're getting a property that has the infrastructure necessary to submit for a building permit and build something, and perhaps the infrastructure wasn't actually finished. So that's another one where there's a problem. The last case is for commercial projects where they do a commercial subdivision and they have some infrastructure they have to build, and they're ready to build their business, but in order to get a building permit, they have to file their plat. So what we will allow in the case, if they're serious, if they've gone to the expense, they have an architect, they have an engineer, they have their plans for their building to construct, they have their plans for their public infrastructure. In that case, we will allow them to post security so that they can put all this under one construction contract and build all of it at one time. So if the infrastructure isn't completed at the time they need a CO, it's all within their own control. It's not seen as the city holding them up, so to speak. So we came to the council at the time. There might have been one or two of you on council at that time, and we said, okay, so what's the policy that we want to go with here? Do we want to generally allow the types of agreements where a commercial developer has to build private and public infrastructure? If they're serious about it, they have some skin in the game, yes, we'll go ahead and staff can work with them to do this agreement and move forward. Do we want to make a policy where that's allowable for residential subdivisions? Knowing the risks and the potential outfall from that, and because we're looking to protect citizens, council at that time did give guidance to staff that if a residential subdivider were to make that request, it wouldn't be, yes, staff, that's fine, go ahead, work the agreement and move forward with it. We would need to come to council and make that request explicitly and acknowledge the risks of doing that. So in this case, the Saddlebrook developer has requested a subdivision improvement agreement for the purpose in this instance of being able to transfer lots from a land bank to a different division of their corporation, which is the builder. They have agreed to include in that agreement a restriction that allows that sale of those lots only a single time and only to the builder. So they wouldn't then be able to turn around and sell it to someone a family who wants to build a house. It would still just sit there with the builder until the infrastructure's done, accepted. Then we would be able to, they would be able to sell it to someone else, pull building permits, and build homes on it. So if you choose to authorize staff to go forward and do this agreement with them, the agreement wouldn't come back to you. We would do it just as we would do any other subdivision improvement agreement. We normally do those administratively. But you would need to consciously adjust the motion to approve this resolution to explicitly include that subdivision improvement agreement authorization. So with all that said, happy to answer questions.
Council, questions?
S- what's the worst example of of what you just described? Everything you just, is it like, in my mind, I'm thinking like, was it off of Manor? Where was that main?
Oh,
Freeway Manor? Is
Manor.
that the worst example of what could happen?
That sounds like a very good description of what can happen. We create a paper subdivision where these lots exist, they could be sold to anyone, and there's no infrastructure there. And so the person who purchases it wouldn't be able to pull a permit to build a home without building the infrastructure.
That's
the worst example of what happens when the infrastructure isn't completed prior to recordation of the plat. That's not necessarily a risk in this case. That's the extreme of, but the concept that you're talking about is exactly correct.
It's not exactly. So the checks and balance against Freeway Manor is that it's being sold to a developer, right? That's the check on this whole situation, or no? A builder.
A builder.
Developer, builder.
But it's not, it can only be sold to the builder, from what I understand, just
Correct.
once.
Correct.
They cannot, they can sell 100 lots to the builder, but he can't sell it to 100 different people.
Correct.
He's got to build the houses, and then he sells the houses.
Does it require a bond?
Yes.
So
Yes, the
so it could
infrastructure
be
would also be
completed.
bonded, yes. So the developer puts up a bond for the infrastructure. So if the developer, not at all suggesting that this developer would do this, just for
Yes.
illustrative purposes, if the developer turned around and left town, the city would be able to call the bond, use that money, and complete the infrastructure.
The land bank is our land bank or the developer's land bank?
It's the developers.
Developers, all right,
Yes.
thank you.
Councilmember Gibson.
With this developer that is asking for this, how do we know that they only have one builder that they're selling it to? So you're saying that they can only sell it to a builder, but that doesn't mean that they can only sell it to one builder.
So the plan is that they're selling it to themselves. There are two divisions of the same overarching corporation.
But that's not impossible. Is that impossible?
It's, well, I mean, we see it in different neighborhoods where we have 3 builders in one subdivision.
Correct.
They buy a number of lots and houses so that they can build those type of houses, and they have that dedicated portion of land for them to build, but they cannot resell it.
I think the intention is to mitigate the risk of an individual buyer being left holding the bag, like in a Freeway Manor type scenario. If it's in a builder's hand, it's more likely going to get finished.
Correct.
Councilmember Brown.
Yeah, I think you guys pretty much answered it. It's pretty common nowadays for a large development to have more than one builder. It adds variety to the neighborhood. It adds different price points to the neighborhood, and it ensures the success of the neighborhood in the long run. You know, and in today's world, these developers are not just taking 100 acres of land, cutting it up into 75 lots and selling it. I mean, they're talking millions of dollars of infrastructure goes into this thing before you ever do anything. So I see the value in this.
Another point, I believe, is that, so the developer, in this case, the developer is Ashton San Antonio Residential LLC. The builder is Ashton Woods. So in this one case, the builder is actually the developer, which is not that common, right?
Any other questions? Do I have a motion to approve resolution number 24R40?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion made by Councilmember Hayward, second by Councilmember Watson.
If you want to, right, if you want to authorize the subdivision improvement agreement, you would need to add that to the motion.
authorize the pro rata agreement for is that the cost-sharing agreement road wreck impact fee credit agreement with Saddlebrook. Will that work?
And the subdivision
And the
improvement agreement?
subdivision
Improvement agreement.
improvement agreement, okay.
We
Do
still
I
have
need to
the
say that
second.
again?
Okay. Motion has been restated and second by Councilmember Watson. Any other comments? We can, please cast your vote. We can publish the vote, please. We have 7 ayes, no objections. Motion passes.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item number 16, resolution number 24R29, authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Marksman General Contractors for construction manager at-risk services related to the design and construction of Fire Station number 4. Chief, floor is yours.
Evening, Mayor, Council. Thank you. I'm John Perry, Battalion Chief. I'm here on behalf of the Fire Department and Chief Rogers, who cannot be with us tonight on bereavement. And we are here for 24R29. It's going to be related to the design and construction for our Fire Station 4. The goal of this resolution is to authorize the city manager to approve and execute an agreement for construction manager at-risk services with Marksman Construction. A little bit of the benefit for this is the benefit of the construction manager at risk is that this is going to reduce the city's overall potential risks because the contract will include a guaranteed maximum price for the project. This provides a predictable budget and helps to ensure that the city receives a quality fire station in order to continue to provide superior service and response times to our residents and the visitors of our city. In addition, this will also help the city move forward and get closer to our ISO rating in our next evaluation. A little bit of the background for this is we had an agreement with Icon Architects for the design of Fire Station 4, and that was previously approved by City Council, and the initial design efforts are underway at this time. We are at the stage of the project where the expected cost of the proposed project needs to be determined by a qualified construction manager before the project design can proceed any further along. Per Local Government Code 2269.254, the government entity shall select offeror that submits the proposal that offers the best value for the governmental entity based on the published selection criteria and on its ranking evaluation. The decision for the proposed construction manager at risk was based on the outcome of the request for qualifications process by using the two-step selection process for construction manager at risk. The first step was the return of 4 responses to the RFQ on January 4th, 2024. From here, the responses were evaluated and ranked based on their qualifications. We moved on to step 2 of the process, and that involved the top 3 firms submitting a cost proposal along with in-person interviews conducted by the selection committee, and that was on February 9th, 2024. Using Local Government Code 2269.254 as the basis for decision, best value and ranking evaluation, Marksman General Contractors was identified as that top firm. Fiscal impact of this will be an estimated total of $1,257,000, and the approval for these services comes from within the bond approved for Fire Station 4. And with me tonight, I do have Derek Bird with AGCM that can answer any of the questions on the actual process for the construction design or anything moving forward. And then I also have Jessica Kurtz from purchasing or any questions on that she can help out with.
Thank you. All right, council, floor is open for discussion. Councilmember Westbrook.
Yes, sir. It may be better for, I don't know, I'm going to ask a question. AGCM may be better. Who was on the selection committee, and what separated number 1 from number 2 and 3 in terms of value? It's in your notes. I'm just joking, whatever. You're looking.
No, I apologize. I do have some of the answers, but in order to give you the best answer in the quickest amount of time, I will refer to Jessica on this,
Yes,
or we
sir.
might be here for a little while.
Yes, sir. No problem. Thank you.
Happy to step in. Good evening, Council. Jessica Kurz. And so the evaluation committee was made up of a number of city staff that included folks from the fire department, folks from engineering, those who were involved in the planning process, as well as our owner's representative. And so that is Derek Bird. He mentioned AGCM. We've contracted with them for owner's representative services on this project. Myself, I was also involved in the selection committee. So there was about 7 of us on the selection committee.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't answer your second part, and so you
Okay, got
asked
it.
about what set one apart from two. So I will tell you, as he mentioned, in the second step of the process, we invited the top 3 ranked firms for on-site interviews. At that time, we had the opportunity to talk with their teams, their project planning teams, their construction management teams, had an opportunity to learn more about their experience with fire stations. We did our due diligence. We reached out to references for all 3. Ultimately, what it came down to, but between 1 and 2, I will tell you, there was very small difference in price. Marksman did come in a little bit less. What separated 1 and 2 from 3, there was a couple of things. The third ranked firm after the interviews was a much smaller firm with limited or more limited resources. And so that was definitely a discussion for us. Also, their experience in firehouse design wasn't exactly the product that we were going to be looking for in our Schertz Fire Station number 4. So ultimately, when it came down to it, 1 and 2 were very well qualified and very competitive, and then we looked at price.
Are they local? How local are they? Marksmen?
I'm sorry?
Like, they're local or regional?
So yes, we have, Jared wants to come up. We actually have representatives from Marksman here. They are local out of San Antonio.
Out of San Antonio? Okay. So you've done other stations before?
They have.
They have? All right.
Every agency I'm
So yes, I mean, if you're curious about 1 and 2, so I'll tell you that 1 and 2 was Byrne Construction, who actually built Fire Station number 3 for us. So we were very familiar with them. They have extensive experience building fire stations as well as Marksman. I think they're currently building 2, but maybe San Marcos, some area, some fire stations around. We actually visited some fire stations that they have built. And like I said, did due diligence, talking with references, folks who have used them.
No, thank you very much. I'm not opposed to the process. I'm just like to get interested. I'm just interested in the whole process because that's what I used to do in terms of facilities. And number 3 was an award-winning station. And so I appreciate the process. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, any other comments or questions? Is there a motion to approve 24R
So moved.
29?
Second.
Have motion made by Councilmember Watson, second by Councilmember Hayward. Any other comments? Please cast your vote. You can please publish the vote. We have 7 ayes, no objections, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we have a closed session. The City Council will meet in closed session under Section 551.087 of the Texas Governmental Code, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations, closed meeting. The governmental body is not required to conduct an open meeting to discuss or deliberate regarding commercial or financial information that the governmental body has received from a business prospect that the governmental body seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in or near the territory of the governmental body and with which the governmental body is conducting economic development negotiations. Or number 2, to deliberate the offer of financial or other incentives to a business prospect. In reference to Project E86, the time is now 8:15. We will reconvene after our closed session. All right, the time is now 8:33. We reconvene into our regular session after our discussion and deliberation regarding item number 17, Project E86. Our start time was 8:20 and our end time was 8:28. And the chair will make a motion. The resolution is a resolution number 24R43, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing an expenditure as reflected in a economic development performance agreement between the City of Schertz Economic Development Corporation and XCM Group Incorporated and other matters in connection therewith. I make a motion that we approve resolution number 24R43. Do I have a
Second.
second? The chair made the motion and second by Councilmember Hayward. Any other comments? Council, if you can please cast your vote. We can publish the vote, please. We have 7 yeas, no objections. Motion passes. All right, we'll move on. Item number 19, monthly updates on major projects in progress and the CIP. These are information packets that were provided to council and available for public viewing at our website, Schertz.com. Requests and announcements. Council, any possible updates or information requested from staff? See none. Council, any possible items you'd like to place on the future agenda? All right, let's move on. All right, announcements by council members. Mayor Pro Tem Macaluso.
I had the pleasure of going out to Moving on Main on Sunday. It was actually my first one to attend in Schertz, and I had a good time, and I think it's a great event that we can even consider expanding off of at some point.
Councilmember Davis.
Just like to echo Councilman Macaluso's comments. Moving on Main, great event. Had a good time. Thank you.
Councilmember Watson.
Cycled my heart out on Moving on Main. It was a great event.
Councilmember Gibson.
I attended Moving on Main. It was wonderful. Also, I attended the TML Leadership Academy and also the Chamber Luncheon today, which was fantastic, seeing all the nonprofits in our community.
Councilmember Westbrook.
I did Moving on Main, but I think one of the highlights for Moving on Main was that Tim Brown gave me some history, me and Councilwoman Watson, some of the history behind it, Schertz Fest and everything else. So it'd be interesting to sort of see if we could get a report to some extent about sort of the past events that led up to Moving on Main and some of the other options that were discussed and were not accepted, and just some history. Thank you.
Councilmember Hayward.
Yes, I attended the Northeastern Partnership Luncheon where we had Senator Campbell come in and talk to us a little bit about some of the legislation that was passed and what may be coming up. Moving on Main, I got there a little later after everybody. I got there at 3 o'clock, and I'd planned to walk, but Jared offered me a ride, and so I took the ride all the way down and back, so it was fantastic for me. Did ribbon cutting for Traveling Toms. That is a partner company with Kona Ice, and it was simply fantastic. The coffee is very delicious. And then the chamber lunch today, and it was amazing seeing all the nonprofits. That's all.
Councilmember Brown.
Yeah, Northeast Partnership on last Thursday, and of course, Moving on Main. Just keep moving.
All right, the time is now 8:36. We stand adjourned.